Before Call of Duty became a global name connected with online battles, yearly releases, and competitive gaming culture, it existed as a quiet idea shaped by a small group of developers who wanted to tell stories about war in a slower, more thoughtful way. In the early 2000s, many video games focused mainly on action and speed, often placing players in constant movement without space to reflect. Yet the creators of the first Call of Duty were interested in something different, something that could combine intensity with stillness and excitement with emotional weight. At that time, World War II stories were still deeply present in films, books, and documentaries, and many people were trying to understand history not only through facts, but through personal experiences and memories. This atmosphere strongly influenced the first Call of Duty, which was released in 2003 and focused on shared perspectives rather than a single heroic character. Instead of following one soldier, players moved between different roles and locations, slowly building an understanding of how large events were formed from small, human moments. The game placed great importance on atmosphere, using quiet background music, distant sounds, and carefully designed environments to create tension without relying only on explosions and constant action. Missions often included moments of waiting, observing, and listening, reminding players that war was not only about fighting, but also about uncertainty and patience. This approach made the experience feel closer to an interactive film than a traditional arcade shooter. Call of Duty 2 continued this direction by improving visual quality, lighting, and environmental details, allowing battlefields to feel more realistic and emotionally engaging. Set in regions such as North Africa and Europe, the game encouraged players to move with their squad, follow rhythms of combat, and understand surroundings rather than rushing forward. These design choices reflected a growing interest in authenticity, where accuracy meant more than correct uniforms or weapons, extending instead to mood and pacing. Music played an important role in shaping this early identity, with orchestral themes supporting reflection and emotional connection instead of constant excitement. These compositions helped players feel connected to the environment and the narrative, creating memories that lasted beyond individual missions. At the same time, early multiplayer modes offered simple and balanced spaces where players could meet, compete, and cooperate without complex progression systems. Maps were designed to be easy to learn, allowing familiarity to grow naturally over time. Communication was limited, and identities were temporary, which created relaxed environments focused more on shared moments than on rankings. By the mid-2000s, especially with the arrival of Call of Duty 2 on newer consoles, the series began reaching a wider audience and entering more living rooms around the world. Late-night sessions, dim screens, and quiet controller sounds became part of many players' routines, blending entertainment with personal reflection. This early era of Call of Duty was not defined by scale or competition, but by emotional restraint, careful storytelling, and respect for historical atmosphere. Before massive online worlds and seasonal updates, the series learned how to balance action with silence, movement with pause, and excitement with calm. In doing so, it quietly built the foundation for everything that would follow. As Call of Duty continued to grow after its early World War II entries, the developers began to feel that the series was slowly reaching the limits of historical storytelling, not because the past had lost its meaning, but because players were becoming more familiar with its rhythms and expectations. By the mid-2000s, many fans had experienced similar battlefields, similar missions, and similar emotional tones, which created a quiet desire for something new, something that could reflect the present as much as the past. At the same time, global events, technological progress, and changing media landscapes were reshaping how people thought about conflict, communication, and security. News channels, documentaries, and films increasingly focused on modern military operations, advanced equipment, and digital surveillance, creating a cultural environment where contemporary warfare felt closer and more relevant to everyday life. The creators of Call of Duty carefully observed this shift and began exploring how the series could move forward without losing its reflective tone. This transition became clear with the release of Call of Duty 4. Modern Warfare in 2007, a title that quietly transformed the identity of the franchise. Instead of distant historical settings, players were placed in fictional yet believable modern environments, inspired by real-world tensions and geopolitical narratives. Cities, deserts, ships, and industrial zones replaced ruined villages and old battlefields, creating spaces that felt familiar yet uncertain. Modern warfare introduced a more cinematic approach to storytelling, using scripted moments, controlled pacing, and carefully composed scenes to guide emotional response without overwhelming the player. Missions such as All Gillied Up, with its slow movement, natural camouflage, and patient observation, became symbolic of this new direction, demonstrating that tension could be built through silence and waiting rather than constant combat. The game also reshaped multiplayer culture through its progression system, which rewarded players with new weapons, abilities, and visual elements as they continued playing. This structure encouraged long-term engagement while still allowing casual participation, balancing motivation with accessibility. For many players, leveling up became a personal journey rather than a competitive obligation. Online spaces began to feel more persistent and meaningful as familiar usernames appeared repeatedly, and friendships formed through shared routines. Voice chat, private matches, and clan systems supported deeper social interaction, transforming multiplayer sessions into nightly gatherings rather than isolated events. The success of modern warfare inspired direct sequels and influenced the entire industry, showing that contemporary settings could support emotional storytelling and long-term communities. Titles such as Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 expanded this vision, introducing larger-scale conflicts, cooperative modes, and interconnected narratives that blended personal stories with global stakes. At the same time, the series maintained its calm undercurrent, continuing to include moments of reflection, quiet travel, and environmental storytelling within intense scenarios. Players were encouraged not only to react quickly, but also to observe, listen, and absorb atmosphere. By the early 2000s, Call of Duty had become a central part of gaming culture, shaping how people spent their evenings and connected with friends across distances. Yet beneath its growing popularity and technical sophistication, the series still carried the emotional DNA of its early years, rooted in balance, pacing, and respect for mood. This modern warfare era marked a turning point where Call of Duty learned how to speak both to the present and to memory, combining realism with imagination and intensity with calm. It created a foundation for global communities while preserving the gentle rhythms that had defined the beginning of the journey. As the modern warfare era reached its peak, Call of Duty began preparing for another shift, one that would move away from visible battlefields and open conflicts, and instead guide players into quieter spaces filled with memory, mystery, and psychological tension. By the late 2000s, audiences were becoming more interested in hidden stories, classified documents, and the unseen dimensions of global politics, influenced by films, books, and documentaries that explored espionage and covert operations. This cultural atmosphere shaped the creation of Call of Duty. Black Ops, released in 2010, which placed players inside fragmented memories and secret missions inspired by Cold War history. Rather than focusing only on large armies and open warfare, the game emphasized interrogation rooms, hidden facilities, jungle operations, and coded conversations, creating an experience that felt more internal than external. The narrative followed characters such as Alex Mason, Frank Woods, and Jason Hudson, whose stories unfolded through flashbacks, psychological triggers, and unreliable memories, inviting players to slowly piece together the truth rather than receiving it directly. This approach reflected a growing interest in complex storytelling within video games, where ambiguity and emotional depth became as important as action. Historically, Black Ops drew inspiration from real Cold War events, including the Cuban Missile Crisis, covert operations in Southeast Asia, and intelligence programs such as MK Ultra, blending documented history with fictional elements to create a believable yet dreamlike atmosphere. This mixture allowed the series to explore political tension without becoming purely educational or detached. At the same time, multiplayer continued to evolve, introducing features such as combat training, customizable emblems, and refined matchmaking systems, which helped both new and experienced players find comfort within familiar structures. Progression systems became more layered, offering rewards that reflected dedication without forcing constant competition. The Zombies mode also reached new cultural significance during this period, transforming from a hidden bonus feature into a shared narrative space filled with symbols, hidden messages, and recurring characters such as Richtofen, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo. Maps like Kino de Toten and Ascension became quiet, meeting places where players explored fear, cooperation, and ritual through repeated encounters. Black Ops 2, released in 2012, expanded this approach by introducing branching storylines and player-driven choices, allowing personal decisions to influence narrative outcomes. Set across multiple timelines, including the 1980s and a near-future world, the game explored how past actions quietly shaped later conflicts. This structure encouraged reflection, reminding players that war stories were not isolated events, but part of longer emotional and historical chains. Multiplayer introduced the Pick 10 system, which simplified customization while preserving strategic depth, making preparation feel calmer and more intuitive. Throughout this era, Call of Duty balanced intensity with introspection, offering experiences that could be thrilling yet thoughtful, social yet personal. Late-night sessions often involved quiet cooperation, shared discoveries, and conversations that extended beyond the screen. By blending secrecy, memory, and community, the Black Ops era deepened the emotional language of the series, proving that action games could explore inner worlds as gently as external conflicts, and creating a space where players could reflect as much as they reacted. As the Black Ops era gradually settled into memory, Call of Duty began facing a quiet question about its own identity. Wondering how long stories of past and present conflict could remain emotionally fresh in a world where technology, culture, and player expectations were constantly evolving. By the early 2000s, science fiction themes, advanced robotics, and futuristic design were becoming increasingly popular across films, television, and interactive media, shaping a collective imagination that looked forward rather than backward. This cultural shift influenced the development of titles such as Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, released in 2014, which introduced players to powered exoskeletons, energy-based weapons, and highly mobile combat environments inspired by emerging research in military technology and human augmentation. Instead of grounded historical settings, players were placed inside speculative futures where private military corporations, global surveillance systems, and advanced drones shaped everyday life. Advanced Warfare also marked a significant collaboration with actor Kevin Spacey, whose role as Jonathan Irons reflected the growing connection between gaming and cinematic storytelling. His presence signaled the industry's desire to blur the line between film and interactive narrative, offering performances that felt more intimate and emotionally detailed. Gameplay during this era emphasized vertical movement, aerial mobility, and fast-paced traversal, allowing players to move across environments in 3 dimensions rather than along flat surfaces. While this created energetic and visually striking experiences, it also introduced a new rhythm that challenged players to adapt both physically and mentally. Titles such as Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare continued this futuristic direction, exploring artificial intelligence, cybernetic enhancement, and space-based conflict. Infinite Warfare, in particular, experimented with zero-gravity combat and interplanetary travel, offering moments of quiet isolation amid vast cosmic settings. Historically, this period reflected broader technological optimism and anxiety as society debated automation, data control, and the role of machines in human life. Call of Duty absorbed these concerns and transformed them into interactive stories that balanced spectacle with reflection. Multiplayer systems evolved accordingly, introducing specialists, customizable abilities, and advanced progression structures that encouraged diverse play styles while maintaining accessibility. Players could experiment with identity, movement, and strategy, shaping personal approaches to familiar competitive spaces. Despite these innovations, this era also revealed tensions within the community, as some players longed for simpler, grounded experiences, while others embraced experimentation. Online discussions, forums, and streaming platforms became spaces where nostalgia and curiosity coexisted, reflecting the emotional complexity of long-running franchises. Single-player campaigns continued to emphasize personal stories within technological landscapes, exploring themes of loyalty, memory, and ethical responsibility in environments dominated by machines. These narratives asked quiet questions about humanity's relationship with power and control, inviting players to reflect rather than merely react. By the late 2000s, it became clear that this futuristic phase had expanded the expressive range of Call of Duty, even as it challenged traditional expectations. It demonstrated that the series was willing to explore uncertainty, risk, and transformation, acknowledging that growth often involves temporary discomfort. This period ultimately served as a bridge between past traditions and future reinvention, preparing the franchise for its next evolution by testing the boundaries of technology, imagination, and player identity. As the years passed and each new chapter quietly joined the long history of Call of Duty, the series slowly transformed from a collection of individual games into a shared cultural memory that lived inside routines, friendships, and personal timelines. What had once begun as a reflective interpretation of historical conflict gradually became a living archive of how people spent their evenings, connected across distances, and marked different phases of their lives through digital worlds. From the early World War II missions filled with restrained music and careful pacing, to the modern battlefields shaped by cinematic storytelling, secret operations, futuristic experiments, and massive online spaces. Each era added a new layer to a growing emotional landscape. These layers did not replace one another, but remained present in memory, allowing players to move backward and forward through time whenever they returned to older titles, maps, and characters. With the arrival of Warzone and large-scale free-to-play environments in the late 2000s and early 2000s, Call of Duty entered a new phase where accessibility and continuity became central values. Players no longer needed physical discs or isolated sessions, as shared digital spaces allowed participation at any moment, from almost anywhere. This shift reflected broader changes in media consumption, where streaming, cloud services, and permanent online identities reshaped how entertainment fit into daily life. Yet even within these vast and constantly changing environments, the series maintained traces of its original rhythm, preserving moments of quiet travel, preparation, and observation between intense encounters. Long flights over digital landscapes, slow walks through abandoned buildings, and silent waiting before engagement continued to echo the early philosophy of balance between action and stillness. Social spaces within the game also evolved, becoming informal meeting points where players gathered not only to compete, but to talk, reconnect, and maintain relationships that extended beyond gameplay. Friend lists, recurring teammates, and familiar voices transformed matches into small rituals that marked the passing of time. Historically, this transformation reflects how interactive media gradually shifted from isolated products into long-term platforms that supported emotional continuity. Call of Duty did not merely offer entertainment. It offered a structure through which memories accumulated, from late-night sessions after school to weekend gatherings with friends, to quiet solo play during transitional moments of life. As criticism, nostalgia, innovation, and reinvention continued to shape the series, it became clear that its greatest strength was not technological power or commercial scale, but its ability to adapt while remaining recognizable. Each generation discovered its own version of Call of Duty, shaped by personal circumstances, social environments, and emotional needs. Some players remembered early campaigns and orchestral themes. Others remembered prestige levels and multiplayer rivalries, while newer generations associated the series with open maps, live updates, and shared digital events. All of these experiences existed side by side, forming a collective archive of interactive memory. In this way, Call of Duty became more than a franchise. It became a quiet companion to everyday life, present during moments of excitement, uncertainty, growth, and rest. It learned how to exist within human rhythms rather than override them, offering both intensity and familiarity, without demanding constant attention. Looking back, the history of Call of Duty is not only a story of battles and technology, but a story of evenings spent together, headphones worn in silence, conversations held between matches, and personal reflections shaped by virtual journeys. And as screens continue to change and new forms of interaction emerge, this legacy remains, carried quietly through memory, routine, and the gentle continuity of shared digital spaces.